Hello and welcome to episode 560 of the Awesome Comics Podcast.
And it's already 560.
Hang on, I haven't even finished the intro yet and you jumped in. Sorry. Yes, and trust me, every time I read the numbers every week, I'm as surprised as you are that we've made it this far. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me to talk about small press and how they make one hell of a big noise is the artist and creator of Vanguard, the epic webcomic returning in 2026, Mr. Daniel Butcher.
Yes, hello.
And Tony Esmond, are you phoning in from Paris?
It looks like that because I've purposely, we just did an interview that obviously blew our minds, we had a real fun with. But just behind me, you can see the Eiffel Tower, but it's not the real one, it's the one in Vegas. I'm sitting in a hotel overlooking an Eiffel Tower.
Better in some ways.
Yeah. Wow. Shots fired across the bow.
World War II butcher. Yeah. And,
I will say
I'll be back by the time this is live. I'll be back. Don't you worry. I'll be back in the UK.
Yeah. And the curtains that Tony has look very much like they're out of the 70s.
Yeah. Mate, some of the stuff that's happened in this room is like a 70s porn film. I'll tell you that now.
Wow. Such vivid imagination that our listeners have. So thank you for that, Tony Esmond.
No problem.
Yes, we have one hell of a show for you this week. As not only we're having a little, I mean, it's in the title. We're celebrating 50 years of Fantagraphics, which is amazing in itself. And I think in order to talk about it, we had probably the best person you could possibly ask to talk about it. The one and only Gary Groth joined us.
That's a big get for us, guys. It's a big get for us.
Yeah.
Well done, V, because you booked him. But
well, I'm just casual, innit? I'm just a casual guy around town. Like, do you want to talk comics? No, but it's in all seriousness, folks, it's a great chat we've got coming up about publishing, small press and underground books. There's all kinds of things, as well as like.
It'd be interesting to a lot of creators as well, because we talk about what it would take to get on a Fantagraphics slate.
Very insightful on what he says about Chapman's books.
Yes.
Yeah, that was lovely. How much did he love that book? Which is lovely because we adore that book. So yeah.
Can you recall your first Fantagraphic book?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh God.
Mine's really easy.
Mine would have been a very early Comics Journal. I think.
Mine would have been Tokyo Jimbo.
Okay.
The collected trade.
Wow.
I was like, I saw that.
Obviously, I was big minimum. We're obviously all big minimum wage fans here as well. That was been an early one, and early Love and Rockets, I guess, for me too.
There's so many books on the shelf that's right behind me at the moment that I know has a Fantagraphics emblem on them, and I've completely
forgotten them.
I know because it's such diverse, and he does that. It's such I was thinking of when he was talking about newspaper strips. I was thinking of saying, have you heard of George and Lynn?
Yeah. Some of our listeners maybe of an older persuasion who read the newspapers will know what we're talking about. But that is all good and to come soon. And we've got some great recommendations as well. But we do just want to briefly mention something, don't we, Tony? Do you want...
Yeah, so it's a bit of a sad one, actually. And Sam Keith passed away, and he was only 63. We're all big Max fans, aren't we? I guess.
Yeah.
I was trying to think...
I think the Max, for our listeners who maybe wouldn't know who Sam Keith is, definitely look up his work, because I know during the 90s and stuff, when the Max, and obviously which went to Image, Max was published by several different... did it go to several different things? It started with Image.
Sure.
And obviously it had an MTV cartoon and stuff, but Sam Keith was one of those, and you can honestly say this, an original artistic voice
exactly what I was going to say.
In comics. No one else like him. I don't think anyone else could copy him. I even to the point of like when I used to see like Marvel comics, when they had like all the trading cards with like different, and his Wolverine was madness.
I love his Wolverine. Yeah. When you think that he did his Wolverine, I think it was in Marvel Comics Presents, wasn't it? Yeah. And he followed Barry Windsor Smith's, classic Weapon X Wolverine, and then he came on board, and he kept the momentum going as far as I'm concerned.
Great,
really good. He's got such a brilliant style that I just find him even just the covers he was doing for like Midnight Suns and Ghost Rider and stuff like that as well. He did a couple of Hulks, isn't he? I remember liking a lot of as well. Yeah, so good.
I remember a Wolverine story he does where like Wolverine's facing up against Cyber, And Wolverine.
That is the one.
yes.
That's the one.
Yes.
He's Cyber. The way Cyber
I kind of
looks.
feel like that's Proto Max somehow. I don't know why I feel that.
I think Cyber for me never looked better than when Sam Keith did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a bit. I remember there's a bit where they have like Logan's hallucinating, and he gets into like a drag race with Cyber, and thinking that they were in like high school, and one of them's driving like a hot dog car, and it's like, I think only Sam Keith could do this.
Yeah,
you know
that's true.
Yeah.
There's a little on the Vaughn Bodie in this style, I think, sometimes. I'm not sure if he was ever influenced by him, but there's kind of a line between the two somehow in my brain working. Remember the Aliens he did? Do you remember the Aliens he did as well? Aliens, Predator, I think he did. Look,
I'll have to look that up.
But there's I mean, this is a creator that I think if you're a younger creator as well and may not know this name that we're talking about, there is an energy and enthusiasm, to his work that I think will inspire a whole new generation. If they check him out, it's just as always, it's such a shame that we have to mention it in such a sad moment, and it's gone too soon. Yeah, as they all are, but obviously, well wishes to the family and and everyone.
Definitely, too soon, man. It was a sort of we talked with Gary a bit off mic, didn't we, about it? But a combination of a couple of things, but one of them being Parkinson's, and I mean, he's only a few years older than me at 63. It's too young these days.
I did read something that someone put that you all these older creators and voices, and they've been you just forget they've been around for a long time. And when stuff like this happens, it's like, I know he died relatively young, but like when the voices start leaving us and stuff, you're like, fucking hell, like I
saw the quote from Tom Spurgeon about that, Dan, as well, where I think it's Tom Spurgeon who said, "Don't leave it, go and speak to them at convention."
And that is
I do that. I love doing that, man.
And it's something whenever we have to mention a sad bit of news like that, we will always end it on if there's an older creator that you care about, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have anyway and interacted with these creators, but go and say thank you, and just spend time with them, because
definitely.
And because we've got a lot to be grateful for. I mean, this show doesn't happen without people making comics and us being inspired and wanting to talk about them. So
he is one of those guys. I can just look at some of his art and be utterly inspired by it.
It was also one of those ones that with every artist, I think sometimes you don't get it straight away. And
absolutely,
because you're into a certain type of comics, and certainly, if you if the Jim Lee comics is in your DNA, that's what you love. When you see a Sam Keith, you're like, what? Same with like a Jay Lee or a creator like that, you're like, what?
Or all of the Fantagraphics crowd, man. Look at someone like Woodring. If you're used to reading Jim Lee and then you put catches you, doesn't it?
But there's a moment, and I think it happens like when you see a lot of. Generic's an awful way to put it, but there's a lot of comics that, because of the nature of the style, we have the style. Everything has to look a certain way. And you have a sea of that
style.
And then you've read like that for years, and you go back and you see an artist, and all of a sudden it's like someone hits a light switch, and you're like, I get it now. You were swimming against the current, and you are amazing for it. Do you know what I mean?
It's a good one for me. Jay Lee has gone from being way out there to kind of his style becoming more kind of centrist in a way.
Oh God, I remember.
He's even his new stuff. You got to get your eye in a little bit. There's a bit of getting your eye in.
There's still the element to it, but like it used to be fucking crazy.
And I'm gonna be completely open and honest about this. Right, back in that time, and when we're going back to it, I remember when Jay Lee was around, he was doing like Wildcats and stuff like that. He was the one that when you're joking with your mates, that's the one I don't like. Do you know what I mean? You say something like,
man, I remember reading Executioner's song, X-Men, and when the Jay Lee stuff came out, I was like,
it's like,
I remember that with his name on stuff. I just didn't like it. I don't know why. It went burned to him.
And it's like, so much so that it's like, okay, that's Jay Lee. I'm going to leave that over here. And then when he did what's the Stephen King one, The Dark Tower.
And
I looked at that and The Dark Tower and The Stand. I was like,
The Dark Tower,
The Dark Tower. I was like, holy shit. Where did this? When did this happen? And it was, I haven't read his stuff for a while, so I can't speak on it now.
I mostly like his covers. He's done a couple of things recently, isn't he? But I mostly, he's one of the people at Dynamite. If he's done the cover, I'll often plumb for that one.
Yeah. So So there you go, a bit of
without
honesty.
further ado,
without talking about inspirational comics. Without further ado, don't join us in a minute to talk about some comics that you should check out, and probably a lot of nonsense that shouldn't be repeatable in polite company. But guys, should we celebrate some Fantagraphics?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, 2026 marks a milestone in independent comics as Fantagraphics celebrates its 50-year publishing anniversary. 50 years. It's amazing. As an indie comics show, how could we not want to talk about that, as well as why the term FU has a whole new meaning these days. And so it's our pleasure to be joined by one of the founders of Fantagraphics and champion of comics just all round, the one and only Gary Groth. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Our pleasure, man. Absolutely. Yeah, Fantagraphics is talked about almost weekly on the show, so it's great to have you, man.
Yeah.
I should pay more attention to your show.
We've had a little run of guests. We had Kat Chapman and we had Steve Lafler on, so we've had a little run of people who published recently, you know. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, we're an indie and small press show, so like, you know, if we got to this episode without talking about Fantagraphics, we're clearly doing our jobs wrong. But let's start with this year being the 50th anniversary, which is an amazing milestone. How does it fit? I know, and you've got a busy year ahead in so many different ways. You know, any milestone is kind of surreal when you're in it. So how does it kind of feel for you at the moment?
Well, you know, I should have anticipated that question, and maybe and I still failed to come up with a good answer. You know, first it feels a little unreal because, you know, in one way, when I started and I co-founded the Comics Journal in 1976, that feels like, in one way, that feels like yesterday. And in another way, it feels like 300 years ago. I mean, it was such an entirely different world when it came to comics and of course everything else. But you know, and I lived that 50 years day by day and inch by inch. So you would think I might have the best perspective on those 50 years, but I'm not entirely sure I do, because to me, it's so granular. I do recognize. I think we're the longest running comics publisher with a single owner. I think we have that distinction.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
We were talking about that earlier, actually, funny enough. Yeah.
So it's just been, you know, it's been an amazing journey, and so much has changed. I mean, so much of what we wanted to change has changed, and so much has changed in ways we didn't foresee and perhaps don't even like.
Yeah.
Because, you
Did
know,
you start with it?
We started out wanting to change the world, the comics world.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
indeed, it has changed. In good ways and bad. So, you know, but on the other hand, I have to say that it's been an incredibly gratifying life, and you know, 50 years is the majority of my life. And before that, you probably know that I published, you know, fanzines when I was 13. So it's been almost closer to 60 years, my involvement with comics. So I have to say, it's just been incredibly gratifying being able to do what I've done and being able to do what I've wanted to do, and succeeding in you know, in large measure doing what we wanted to do. So,
which is amazing by itself. I mean, like from, you know, the zines, the Comics Journal to Fantagraphic, you know, there is an element of like you've seen, especially from the 70s all the way to now. I mean, heck, whenever I think about 2001, and I can clearly remember like it was yesterday, comics it's just changed massively since then, and we've seen massive sea changes in the way that that comics are made, but especially from a publishing standpoint, it's been a real sort of just everything. Sometimes it's changing beneath your feet with every year, isn't it? But it seems like Fantagraphics is just almost stronger than ever. Like seeing that lineup for this year.
I think we're doing the best books we've ever done.
Yeah.
I think we get better and better. Administratively, we kind of get more. We're working better, and that's an important part. That's an important but boring part of the company. Just being able to function as a company. And for the first 15 years of the company, it was just pure anarchy. I mean, we were barely what you would call an ongoing business. We just kept moving by momentum because none of us who were there at the beginning and, for the first dozen years or so, really knew what we were doing in terms of running a business. What we wanted to do was to publish the Comics Journal, was to create a magazine of advocacy journalism, and then to go on a few years after we started the journal to publish comics. And that's what we wanted to do. We didn't want anything to do with the business part of it, and we only had to do that in order to do what we wanted to do. And so we didn't know what we were doing. And so, we've become much, more and more professional as the years have gone by. And I think that we are publishing, the best books of our, in our history. I mean, right? I'm really
agree, man. Totally. Was there a moment in the earlier days when you sort of looked around and you just published something by someone and you thought, there's going to be a real future in this. We're doing all right now. We've got it together.
I think it was last week.
I knew it was like that.
No, it was so incremental. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I had that epiphany.
Right.
It's all been so incremental.
Is that what keeps the energy so vital, though? Because, if you think you've made it, you take your foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
we have younger people in the company than I am, who do have their foot on the pedal. I was thinking about this just the other day. Maybe I was thinking of this interview. And I'm 71, so I don't quite have the juice I had when I was 30. And that's just, you change, physically and probably mentally, although I haven't detected that, but then if I changed mentally, I probably wouldn't. But we have young, like my son is, has been working for Fantagraphics for 10 years now. Eric Reynolds is considerably younger than me, and he's been with the company for like 33 or 34
Bloody hell. Yeah.
But he's still relatively young. We have a lot of people in the company who are in their 20s and 30s and who show me work. Staying vital, I think, is absolutely essential for, maintaining the kind of artistic momentum that any good publishing company needs.
I get you, man. I was going to say to you what has been the high points as you've sort of travelled through all these years, but I think there's so many. I think we'd be all night talking about them. But what I was going to ask is, are there any creators or books that haven't hit that you thought that should be the year's big thing?
Oh boy, I'm sure there have been. Every time we publish a book, and there have been many, many times where we don't sell as many copies as we think we should, I'm still crestfallen and I'm still, incredibly disappointed. There are a lot of artists who I wish we could sell more copies of, on behalf of whom I'd like to evangelize. There are artists like Kathy Malkasian, Kim Deitch.
Yeah.
Artists like that that I don't think sell. I mean, they sell reasonably well, but I think they should be selling far more. And I think if we lived in a better world where people had, appreciated art, and hadn't succumbed to the vastness of corporate culture, they would be selling better.
Yeah.
So I'm always hit by that. I'm always disappointed that we don't sell better, but I'm also a realist. So I do understand, I do understand the real obstacles in selling interesting, challenging work.
Yeah. I mean, I always think of woodring. Woodring should be on everyone's doorstep. I was somebody like that. Or Fingerman even. We've had Fingerman on Bob on a few times on here. Yeah. He's another one. It should be on the tip of everyone's tongue, I think.
Another example of that, yes. And there are a lot. There are a lot. The way mass culture works is you have just a handful of artists who sell tremendously, and through no fault of their own, they take up a lot of oxygen. And, that's just the way we've been trained as consumers, as mass consumers, to go for the most popular things, and there are only a handful of individuals who funnel down to be that popular, and then 90% of the other artists all have to scramble for a tiny portion of the readership. I wish it were more. I wish it were spread out more equally among incredibly talented artists, but that's the way. I think that's the way it is everywhere. I think that's the way it is in film, and that's the way it is in music, and it's just it's just how mass culture works, and we've been beating our head against that particular wall for approximately 50 years.
Yeah,
and it's always a challenge. The greatest joy of doing what I do is, I say there are two parts to it. One is establishing the relationships with cartoonists over those years and continuing to publish them. Like Gilbert and Jaime Hernandez. We started publishing Love and Rockets in 1982, and we're still publishing. That's 4 years ago. And that's just a great relationship. And we have great relationships with other artists in that era, like Dan Clowes and Joe Sacco and Jim Woodring. So that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is finding new, young talent that you believe in, and that you feel it's your mission to get out there and get in front of the public.
You mentioned finding them. Wasn't Joe Sacco an intern with you? Is that right?
An employee. He actually
okay.
On the Comics Journal. He was a news writer on the Comics Journal for about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact,
look how he turned out.
That was somewhere around 1985 or so that he started working for us. He was a journalist by training. And I guess he was so desperate that he contacted us and asked us if we needed a news writer, and we did. And so he moved to LA and he worked in the office. And at some point in his employ, he mentioned to me and Kim that he was a cartoonist. And of course we said, "Oh, really? That's nice." And he said, "Could I pitch a book to you?" And we said, "Sure." And I'm not sure we were expecting much, because there were lots of people who thought of themselves as cartoonists.
Yeah.
And then of course it turned out to be he was a pretty good cartoonist, even in 1985. And then we published 6 issues of his comic Yaku, which was a mix of kind of autobiographical and political work. And then in I forget what year, 1991 or so, he approached us and he said, "Hey, I'm interested in flying to Israel and Gaza and doing some reportage there." And all I remember doing is kind of shrugging, saying, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea."
And it was.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess the big question for us today, Gary, I know we sort of pre-warned you of this, is a lot of people who listen to this are small press and indie creators and stuff. What does it take? I see you as and we talk a lot about this, the top of the tree for these guys. What would it take for them to get something under your nose, and what sort of thing do you look for?
Well, I think we look for a unique vision. We look for an artist who's got the foundational skills, the formal skills, combined with an interesting, unique, perceptive interpretation of the world around them.
Yeah, interesting.
Speaking, that's what we look for.
I suppose that goes with like it's the way that a creative person or an artistic person also handles themselves, like professionally, isn't it? You know, if they're going to publishers and the communication, and you know, you can't just go to a publisher and say, "Oh, could you publish my book?" and then you just can't finish it. You can't make certain deadlines. You can't do all these sort of things. You need to be aware of
reliability is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah. You need. I mean, if you're going to be an artist, I think you need to adopt an ethos of commitment and dedication, and you know, and you simply have to work at it. You can't be a dilettante. And so many artists that we publish are exactly like that. They're so committed to the work, and you've got to be. I mean, I think you've got to be in any art form. There are very few artists who can just throw it off and do something else with the rest of their lives and just treat art, as a hobby. Most of the artists I know that and most of the artists we publish are just incredibly committed to their work. I mean, their work is their lives.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
I think any young artist like that simply, has to realize that.
Yeah. I mean, it speaks to the books that you're putting out, and that you have, and what you've got coming out this year. The hard work speaks for itself when you look at the pages, and I know when you guys publish these books, you put an equal effort into how these books look when they're on the shelves. The printed copies. That's one thing about Fantagraphics. Like when I go in a bookstore and I pick up a book and I look and I see, oh, it's a Fantagraphics book. I've probably just marveled at how it's been bound, the whole thing of this is it's a quality book, isn't it?
Thanks. Yes. I mean, we've upped our game over the years. We pay a lot of attention. We pay a lot of attention to the editorial side of the book. A lot of our books contain extra text materials and introductions and afterwards, and sometimes analysis. We're putting together this gigantic collection of Mad from issue number 1 to issue.
Saw that. Yeah.
There's a lot of extra material that we're putting in there. Finding the very best reproductions of every page of Mad that we can. So we put a lot of work into it in the office. Once the artist hands over the work, or if it's an archival project, putting it together like that. And yeah, we take a lot of pride in the quality of the printing. They're all Smythe bound. I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but that means that they're sewn rather than glued. So we take a lot of pride in the way the book is presented.
Yeah.
I guess that's most important with the archival stuff you're putting out, Gary, is the sort of peanuts and the care you got to take on them.
Yeah. We spend a lot of time. We have a staff of 3 people in our production department who do nothing but production work, which means a lot of the time restoration. So they're working on old strips, newspaper comics or comic books, and restoring them.
And that's an art in itself. We've had some people on the show that do that, and you have to be very specific about it, don't you?
We just had a rant about it before you came on, actually. Funny enough. About one of our books. Yeah.
You might have done whole shows about that, because there's a debate as to how much you restore the work and how where do you find that sweet spot where you don't over it so it looks too perfect, too pretty, doesn't have an echo of its original cultural text, which was in badly printed comic books or poorly printed newspaper strips. So, I think over the years we found that right balance, but we do an awful lot of that.
Yeah.
We consider preserving the history of comics part of our mandate. And, we started publishing Popeye and Prince Valiant in like 1981.
Wow.
We were interested in that very, very early.
Prince Valiant's the first one with the 50. The new Prince Valiant is the first one with the 50 logo on it. Is that right? I saw today. Yeah. Yeah, we've had a guy called Alan Harvey who's come on. He does a lot of restoration work. I don't know if you know him, but he talks a lot about that. Yeah, really good guy.
For us, he's great.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the archival stuff, there are some things that there's some older Marvel things I believe that you guys are working on. Talk to us a little. It's very interesting that's so
50 years ago you turned them down. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us some more about that.
The word you're groping for is ironic. Well, I think it was 2010 or 2011, we got a license with Disney. And our goal was to publish Carl Barks. Who I think is one of the greatest cartoonists of the 20th century, one of the greatest comic book artists. And that was a dream of mine for a number of years. And so after some years of hammering them, we finally got a license from Disney to publish Carl Barks. And that's how we got our foot in the door. And I'm not sure if Disney owned Marvel in 2010. But of course, Disney acquired Marvel at some point. And then a few years ago, Marvel approached us because we had a Disney license and asked us if we would be interested in publishing the 1950s Atlas comics. Atlas was Marvel's name in the 50s. And it was one of those offers that would have been hard to refuse.
Yeah.
They came to us and said, we would really love you to do this. And I knew what the Atlas books were like. They published a lot of genre books, crime, supernatural, romance, horror. But I wasn't intimately familiar with them. I hadn't really read those comics. I mean, I knew of them and I knew the artists who were there. So I looked into them a little bit, and they had a stable of some of the greatest craftsmen working in comics. Joe Maneely and so forth. And so anyway, we decided, sure, we can do this, and we can do good looking books, and we can preserve that particular history in a way that hasn't been done before. So that's how we started working with Marvel. And then Marvel said, after we published a few of the Atlas books, and presumably they liked what we did, they then approached us and said, would you be interested in doing some of the more obscure Marvel work from the 60s and 70s and 80s? And so, of course, I had to think about that. Is there interesting work that was done that would sort of fit into our more arcane aesthetic? And we talked about it among ourselves. We decided, yes, there was, and that's how we did books like Tower of Shadows and the Howard Chaykin volume and Savage Tales, which just came out. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. Loved it. Yeah, absolutely. The Herb Trimpe work in that Savage Tales, outstanding. Brilliant.
Who knew? I mean, I was familiar with the earlier Savage Tales, and I wasn't really that familiar, even though obviously I lived through that period. I wasn't paying that much attention. But yeah, there was a lot of great, the John Severin work in there.
So good. And we're massive Howard Chaykin fans as well. We love him. He's so good, man. Yeah.
I think it's one of the best looking books that, by Howard.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're finding a lot of, interesting kind of weird outsider type stuff that Marvel did for whatever reason back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So we're doing that. And it's, and it's been a good relationship. I talked to my contact at Marvel is old enough to remember when I was writing editorials in opposition to Marvel, like every month.
We're going to get to the Comics Journal in a minute, definitely. Yeah.
We have a good laugh about that. I mean, and I haven't particularly changed my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're able to put out these books from an historical point of view.
Yeah, there's a lot of I mean, we talk, we've spoken at like just some old comics, even if it's just like the weekly comics, like here in the UK and stuff. There's a real, obviously, there's a lot of thing about nostalgia. People like looking at old comics, but for me, it's also being an older comics reader. It's seeing the craft now, and there's so many artists that people are not talking about or never talked about at the time. When you're a kid, you never knew about it. And I go back and I just say, these people are blowing everyone out of the water.
People we took for granted at the time.
Yeah. So to do stuff like this must be, I mean, you obviously are discovering things yourself as well, aren't you, about the old stuff? That must be a bit of a blast.
Rediscovering things I completely forgot about.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah.
And I have only a very marginal interest in nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at work that I think is undervalued or underrepresented and that still has some combination of historical and aesthetic value. There were so many great craftsmen working in the 50s and 60s. I mean, artists of the caliber of John Buscema, and we're doing a big Gil Kane volume.
Nice, brilliant.
Coming out in a few months. Gil was a good friend of mine. I kind of wish he was around to see his work appear in the most beautiful book that it will.
Yeah. Sparring with Gil Crane is a great book as well. If you don't mind me saying so, Gary, I read it recently, loved it, absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Which book?
Sorry, Sparring with Gil Kane.
Oh, I'm really proud of that book. It's great. Yeah. I had a great time. My son actually edited it. I helped. I gathered the interviews and then give it to him. That was one of his early projects, and it is a great book. I mean, it's just historically to see Gil Kane talking to Hal Foster and Noel Sickles and all of these guys who are long dead.
Big shout out to our buddy Johnny Cannon, because he got it for me. He says, you got to read this, and he got it for me.
Glad you like that. That was a labor of love. I mean, that's one of those books that didn't sell as well as I'd hoped it would be, but you have to be a certain age to know who Gil Kane is, and an even greater age to know who the people he was talking to were older than he.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Speaking of which, didn't you work with Steranko for a while as well?
Well, I did. I was, and you probably know we're publishing the complete Steranko. Are you aware of
I think I do. I think we read it. Yeah, yeah. Really looking forward to that.
And we're putting that book together, and we're actually including an interview I did with Steranko when I was 14.
Oh yes, I did read about this. Brilliant.
That was awesome.
Yeah, how can you still read it without blushing?
Well, no. Embarrassing. My questions are pretty lame-brained, but his answers.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good interview, partly because I think he was unguarded. And I don't know how old. He's like, how old is he? 15 years older than me, maybe. So if I was 14, he was only in his 30s.
Right.
I think he was just establishing that Steranko persona. So it was a little less guarded than I think, later interviews were. So, I cringe when I read it, but I think it's actually.
Yeah. Do you think you being 14-year-old kid as well, there's less of that, and I'm sure a lot of artists have had this, when they get older and they're talking to a professional journalist, the walls come up a little bit, like, okay, what angle are they taking? But you're just a 14-year-old kid who loves comics, aren't you, at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that added to it. He felt freer to say what he wanted to say. In fact, I think he had things out of it because I think Marvel probably wouldn't allow us to publish it.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting as well. I've heard you say recently as well that you've you've got copies of nearly like loads of interviews that you did at the Comics Journal. Which are you considering releasing them? Or?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, someone in my office who's a big fan of the Comics Journal approached me. Colin Blanchett approached me some months ago, and he asked me if I'd be interested in having him edit a collection of my interviews. And
be amazing.
My guest, and he came to me just a few weeks ago with a proposal of which interviews he thought would make a good mix. I mean, maybe the first of several volumes of my interviews, I guess. So yeah, we're trying. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, I imagine. I grew up on the Comics Journal. Thanks so much for it. A lot of the guys in our little community talk about it all the time. We love it. Yeah.
I'm amazed at how many interviews I could do. Now I do like maybe 2 interviews a year. I mean, and back then I was doing 7 or 8 or 9. And these are long interviews. I mean, these are like, these take 6 hours to do, wow. 60 pages long. And obviously required at least some research. And I don't even know how I did that, but
yeah. Can I also say that the scarf issue of the Comics Journal was probably one of my favorite things for years. Absolutely loved that. Big scarf fan it. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I got exactly 1 letter about and I was, of course, thrilled to do it. I mean, I learned a lot about Scarf. I wanted to interview him just because of his stature as a cartoonist. But then after that, I studied him. I spent months studying his work, and and my respect and appreciation for him only grew during the time I was reading through all of his books. And I flew to England and went to his home and did it. It was a great experience. And
he is incredible. And we did a whole podcast about it, about Scarf, and featured your interview quite heavily. But I'll send you the link. But the one thing, have you been to his bar?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, loved it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. A little bit expensive, but worth the experience.
Good thing I don't drink.
Because the Winston Churchill artwork's there and everything. It's an incredible place.
Right. No, it was great. I mean, I had to go. We flew to London. My girlfriend and I went to the bar. We flew to London. We had to go to the bar before we saw him. We took a train to his place.
Yeah.
And he lives like an hour or an hour and a half away from London. And but we had to go to the bar, and we were sitting at the bar, and there was a young couple sitting at a table next to us, and they were talking about the art on the wall.
Yeah.
And I think my girlfriend said something like, she just perked up and said something like, "He's interviewing Gerald Scarfe tomorrow," and they were like, so that was it was a great experience.
I mean,
yeah, so good.
I mean, in your sort of publishing history, I mean, you've worked with creators who are now, if people see it at conventions or shows or anything like, they get butterflies in their stomach just meeting them and stuff like that. Have you had any moments where you've met or interacted a creator that you had a real passion with that gave you that sort of little butterfly, sort of like, or have you never been nervous? You just sort of like, you just talk to them immediately?
No. I've often been nervous. Meeting or asking someone for an interview. I mean, speaking of Scarfe, Ralph Steadman would be a good example of that. We
were about to do a podcast on him. That's a good shout. Yeah. Yeah, I love Ralph Steadman. So good.
Yeah. In my interviews, I've interviewed Ralph more than once, I think 3 times. And
wow.
They're among my favorite interviews. I mean, he is nearly as good a talker as he is an artist. And he was one of my heroes because I read Hunter Thompson, in the early 70s. And of course, he illustrated Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. And I absolutely adored that work. And I never, when I read those, imagined that I would actually get to meet and know and then befriend Ralph Steadman.
That's incredible. Yeah. Can I just say I'm currently in Las Vegas, Gary. One of the reasons I'm here is because of Ralph Steadman and that book. And I've just got that's my travel book, if you've read that. Yeah. which is his one of his memoirs.
Which is just for the listeners, Tony. That's the Joke's Over.
The Joke's Over, Memoirs of Hunter S. Thompson by Ralph Steadman. Yeah, such a good book. Really good.
I wrote a long review of that book, and turned the review into a kind of history, a career, a biography of Ralph, and which I focused on the collaboration and the friendship between Ralph and Hunter Thompson.
Nice.
And Hunter Thompson, I got to know a little bit too. I met him.
Oh, cool.
Spent some time with him. Which is one of the perks of this job, is I get to meet people outside of comics that I admire and appreciate, just because there are these intersections of comics and other media. That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah,
it's great.
If you don't mind, if we can just rewind a little bit back to the Comics Journal. I let a friend of ours, Simon Russell, in the know that you were coming on today, and he said, "Can you please ask him this question?" And it's, "Can you share your?" It's not a long one. Can you share your thoughts on what comics journalism should be? And it's obviously it's a changing spot these days, isn't it? We talk a lot about the lack of critical analysis and stuff like that. Certainly in the UK at the moment. What are your thoughts on that, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I think Comics Journal should be what Comics Journal was in the Comics Journal in the 80s and 90s, which is investigative journalism, advocacy journalism. And I think the reason it's mostly not is because no one is willing to pay for that. It costs. When we were doing the journal, even into the 2000s, I'm not sure into the 2010s, but we would have a full-time staff news writer. That was Joe Sacco's position, but it's been held by any number of excellent writers over the years. Tom Heinches in the 1980s was very good. Eric Reynolds was the Comics Journal's news writer for maybe 5-6 years. Did excellent work. And he would do what a good journalist is supposed to do. He dug into stories and he contacted people, and he poked and he probed, and he found documents, and he did the work of journalists, and that's what it should be. And the fact is, I just don't think readers are willing to pay for it, and they were willing to pay for it. I mean, the Comic Journal was a package, so they were willing to pay for that package, and the package was news, and it was criticism, it was interviews, it was analysis. So news was a part of the larger package that people are willing to pay for, but I just don't think that's the case anymore.
Okay. Do you think that promotion has taken over from journalism in a way?
Yeah, I mean, why do I think that's? Well, I mean, first of all, the internet's made everything free, so
yeah.
And the margins running a comics website are so slim that you really can't afford to pay a wage for a full-time investigative journalist.
Yeah.
So that's it. Could there be a website that has serious journalism that would be self-supporting, that readers would either pay for, subscribe to, or could be paid for by advertising? I don't think so.
I think things like that probably are more likely to exist on a Patreon or a Substack or something like that now. Just almost a solo journalist.
Podcast.
Yeah.
There was a quote a few years ago from a UK creator, and I can't remember his name for the life of me now, but he wrote a thing about claiming that fanzines had become podcasts because people can't be bothered to read anymore. They just quite happily wander around listening to stuff. Yeah. Which is a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, thank you for listening to us, by the way, everyone. But obviously, there's so much we can speak about. But I definitely need to say something to you, Gary. That so when I say it, a lot of the listeners will be like, "What on earth are you doing?" F you. And by that, I mean Fantagraphics Underground, just in case anyone thought that I was immediately insulting the guest.
Again?
Now, this may be some part of Fantagraphics that some people, certainly our listeners, may not be aware that that's another part of Fantagraphics. And it's a small press, like more of a short run kind of imprint, isn't it? What is Fantagraphics Underground, and like what's your aim with that?
Okay, it's our micro imprint, where we can publish books with low print runs that are even less commercial than our regular line. And the reason we started it was about, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe longer than that. My sense of time is, after 50 years, my sense of time is just completely shot. But about 7 or 8 years ago, I went to Eric and I said, I get these submissions for interesting work, or I know the work of certain cartoonists that would just be impossible to publish because they would only sell maybe 800 copies or 1,000 copies or 1,200 copies of a book. They're just not going to sell the threshold that you need to sell in order to ramp up your marketing campaign and get the books into bookstores and on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and so on. And so I was looking at, I was seeing a lot of interesting work that it was just economically impossible to publish because I knew that they would not sell well. So I sat down and crunched numbers and figured out a way that we could publish books, that we could publish 1,000 copies of a book and not lose our shirts. And that's what really started it. Just, my interest in publishing, more obscure work that I thought was worthy and that deserved to be out there. And that, if we could find 1,000 readers for this work, we should go ahead and do it. And so as a result, we're publishing a lot of cartoonists that otherwise, we couldn't publish. And that probably very few smaller imprints could publish.
Okay, I'd have to say Pear Shape looks excellent. We're all over that. That's Pear Shape by Nick Thorburn looks amazing. Can't wait to see that.
I mean, if anyone goes to the Fantagraphics site and just looks at the Fantagraphics Underground, it's the breadth of different books as well. That's what I like about it. There's so many different original voices. Like you just scroll down and there's something for everyone. And I mean, we always sort of say, give something a try because you never know. Even if it doesn't seem like it's your thing, you could discover something that's completely your jam. I mean, and they all looked like they're beautiful covers. I mean, I was immediately drawn to like the Charlie Chaplin one because it's
yeah,
that looks fascinating. But
Our Little Wild Time I liked as well. I thought that was great.
Yeah. So what is that? The underground sort of. Are you sort of tapped into sort of underground scene? That sounds like sort of quite a broad question because there's so much around.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would say I'm tapped into it. I'm close enough to it that somehow I catch wind of a lot of work and a lot of artists and a lot of books. I mean, I go to small press conventions like SPX and MoCA. I'm going to MoCA in a few days.
Yeah, I think I saw you at TCAF last time I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I always, when I'm there, I always try to make time to go through the room and look at all the booths and all the, on the tables. And I usually come away with a box of books. Now, 90% of these books are not really anything to write home about, but there's always a few books that I like. And so I try to pay attention to what younger cartoonists are doing. I get a lot of, references from other cartoonists. You should check this guy out. Some of FU's stuff is archival. So we'll publish some underground cartoonists who haven't gotten their day in the sun.
Yeah.
Let me see. Eddie Campbell wrote a book about a woman cartoonist by the name of Kate Carew, who worked in the 1920s and 30s. And we published that under FU. So, we publish. I don't know. It's a breadth of work. Young cartoonists, some foreign cartoonists, archival work. Some of it just falls into my lap. Other times artists will just write to me and say, I've got this book, and we're publishing a book by Floyd Tangelman, which I would characterize as avant-garde. So yeah, I mean, I try to stay, on top of things, but admittedly, I can't.
Mm. Well, there's so much about now, isn't there? I mean, with the ease of printing, or I mean, back in the day, it was photocopying something, stapling, and you're at a little show, and because the internet didn't exist, yes, kids, there was a time before the internet, and especially in the UK. I mean, there's a million brilliant US and worldwide creators I never discovered who are probably something I really like, because there was just no way of discovering them, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a period of like between 10 and 20 years where I knew everything. I knew all the comics were coming out. I mean, I was aware of what Marvel and DC were doing, even though I might not have read them, but I was really aware of everything that was not mainstream.
Mm.
And now it's just impossible to keep up with everything. I mean, in a sense, you don't want to keep up with everything because that would be largely a waste of time, and you need it winnowed down into something manageable, just like every form you follow, film or whatever. You need some way of managing what you pay attention to. There was a time when it was small enough and there were few enough cartoonists doing the kind of work that I was interested in, then I was aware of all of it. Now I feel like I'm aware of this infinitesimal, portion of it.
Yeah. I mean, with the FU books, obviously with the larger format books that are getting out to stores, bookshops and stuff like that, there's the obvious way of distribution. But for something like FU, how does that work? Shorter run prints. Can people only go online, or is it available in some comic stores? How does it work?
All of our FU books are available on Amazon.
Okay. All right.
And, they're available in comic stores. We push them through Lunar. They're available on our website and at conventions. And technically, they're actually available through Ingram. You know what Ingram is, right?
Yes.
Yep.
From whom bookstores can order books. What we don't do with FU books, and this is where this allows us the ability to publish them because we're not pouring money into this aspect of marketing, but we don't actively market them in the book trade. That's an expensive proposition. Our distributor is W.W. Norton. We create a catalog 3 times a year. We put a substantial amount of resources into promoting that catalog of books, and we don't do that with FU. We make them available to the book trade, but we just don't actively publish them. And the reason we don't do that is because we've come to the conclusion that it would take more money to market them than we would ever see, because they're less books. So you can spend $10,000 marketing a book that would yield $2,000 in income.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't really feel too underground if it's like it's going through the traditional channels.
It's in the Observer. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 2026 Underground. It's 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Underground is now available on Amazon, but they're not hyped as much as a mainstream title would be.
Yeah. I mean, there's like we say, listeners, there's an amazing sort of gallery, and it's when I found that, it's like, oh wow, there's a whole new. I mean, what I've learned from this interview is, if people think they've got Fantagraphics sort of figured out, or they know what they are as a publisher, they don't.
Well, should we talk about some of the new books you've got coming out from the main line? Because we were lucky enough to get some of the pre-order copies and have a look at them. I mean, obviously, I know it's just come out, but Crazy for You by Thoreau and Lafleur. We're big friends with Steve. Loved that book. Absolutely loved it. Really good. More from them, possibly, or?
Yeah, quite possibly. I'm really, our designer, Kayla E., designed the book.
Nice.
And I'm really proud and pleased with what she did. I mean, she took his drawing, and I think the design is just gorgeous. And I think it was about time that Steve had a well-designed, beautiful book produced. I mean, he produces his own books. I love Steve. I like his cartooning. Not a great book designer.
He keeps doing multiple covers. He keeps confusing me by doing all these multiple covers for his print-on-demand books. I end up buying back 4 of each of them. Yeah.
Sneaky.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good tactic. Yeah. Obviously, you've got Locust as well. Sorry, Gary. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I adore the design of that book. I think he finally got a book that he deserves. The design. You're mentioning Jaime's book.
Yes, yeah, that takes me back because that's the cartooning in that is just it's the best out there as far as I'm concerned.
Some odd pages. It is this thick.
Yeah.
And it's only $50, which I think
is just that's mad.
Yeah. And we were just talking about pre-ordering Butch as well. We're big Hate fans on here. And you've got that. Is that a single sort of standalone issue, is it? Cool. Good.
There's and like obviously there was the pass. Cat Chapman, our pal Cat Chapman is now part of that.
My son got her. He showed me her previous work. I read it, and I have to be honest. I mean, there aren't that many new cartoonists I read that I really love. There are a lot of cartoonists out there that I think have I don't know how to put it. They have some promise. They're interesting, but they're not quite there yet. And he gave me a couple of her earlier books, and he said, I'm talking to this artist about doing her next book, and I mean. Her narrative is exactly what I look for in comics.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a story about human beings, and I mean, weirdly enough, even though there are enough comics to drown in out there, there are so few comics about the ordinary lives of.
She really gets that, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what she does, and. She did a previous book that took place, I think, at a hotel.
It was
Breakwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And similarly, I thought the past was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Owning a restaurant, all the hassles of owning your own business, which of course I could identify with.
Yeah.
Coping with all of these different things that are coming at you constantly, and family and business and friends. It was just all about that.
Yeah, and it's full of moments that have no words, and it doesn't over-explain everything. It feels like a real character story, And you've got that, and obviously Crazy for You, and Tony, your recommendation, recently, The Lights of Niterói. Am I saying that right?
I think that's right. Yeah, we love that.
Yeah. So
that
sequence when they're out in the water.
Oh,
yeah.
And they go to the nudist colony just out of the blue. A nudist colony, yeah. And obviously, you're publishing the new Woodring as well soon. We're very excited by that.
Referring, no doubt, to Quacky.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Jim came to me and he said, "Hey, I have this idea to do a BLB style book." Now, I don't know if you know what a BLB is.
No.
BLB is called a Big Little Book, and these were these little books that were about 4 inches by 3.5 inches tall. They were about 1 inch thick, and they were published in the 20s and 30s.
Oh, okay.
Absolute garbage paper. They had thin, kind of thinnish, cardboardish stock covers. And they had, and their format was that they had a drawing on one side and text on the other side, and they were usually from popular newspaper strips like Dick Tracy or Little Orphan Annie or Buck Rogers or something like that, and they sold for, I'm not sure how much, a nickel or something like that, dime, and they were mass produced, and eventually they stopped being produced because comics took over that position in popular culture. And Jim said he was inspired by the format and he wanted to do a BLB starring Frank and his new character Quacky. And so he said, "Are you interested?" And of course, whenever Jim asks me if I'm interested in a new book by Jim, I go, "Yes, I am interested." And so, and it's great. It's, I mean, Jim is one of those, frankly, rare cartoonists who is as good a prose writer as he is an artist.
Mm.
So you have Jim's writing on the left-hand side and Jim's drawing on the right-hand side. And the book is 350 pages, something like that.
Oh, wow.
So it's great. The writing is terrific, and yeah.
Love his stuff so much.
It's the format exactly.
Brilliant.
So as well as that, I mean, there is just so many. Like, there's obviously the Disney stuff with the Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Uncle Scrooge, and like 8 Ball. Like it's just looking at the list, it's almost intimidating. Just reading it. Yeah. So let alone what it's like on your side of it, Yeah. But it must be exciting. It must be so exciting, to have a year like this and have this sort of lineup of books.
Yeah. We were looking at our because we just finished putting together the fall season this year, and just the other day, a few of us at the office were sort of looking at what the books in 2026 were looking like, and we very self-satisfyingly concluded that we were just our 2026 year was fabulous. We're so proud of all the books we're doing, and we think we are upholding our our tradition and our reputation. So yeah, we're excited by everything we're doing this year.
I mean that.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, what a wonderful way to sort of wrap this up. I mean, if they obviously 50 years of Fantagraphics, everyone should celebrate it. All our listeners, you should buy a Fantagraphics books just to celebrate it. Yeah. But I mean, looking back on it, and this is to put you on a little bit of a spot. Obviously, over those years, what's the thing that you would say you're most proud of in terms of with Fantagraphics or the Comics Journal in your comics career? What are you most proud of?
Well, the Comics Journal is the one component of Fantagraphics that is most me.
Okay.
I poured all of my principles and all of my passion into that for many years. And I still do, but it's much more fragmented now because other people are working on the editorial side, and I don't have as direct as an involvement. But for the first 25 or 30 years of the Comics Journal, I was devoting a lot of time to it, and it really reflects who I am and what I believe. So there's that.
And it's something you fought for a lot as well, isn't it? I mean, we're not going to get into it now. We haven't got the time, but the amount of time spent in court on that one is incredible.
Yeah, there was a lot of verbal fighting, and there was a lot of legal fighting, and huge expenditures of money fighting libel suits that were against the Comics Journal. There was a 2-year period where, and this was very early on, when we really didn't quite know what we were doing. And this was in 80 and 81, where we were literally sued 3 times in the course of 2 years. And that's when I was like 25 and had no idea what a lawsuit was. I mean, I learned quickly. One of which took 7 years to resolve.
Yeah.
So yeah, the journal inspired a lot of passionate and vitriolic response, which I think was what we were, which meant we were doing our job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apart from the journal, God, I'm so proud of so many things. I mean, we published Peanuts. I could never imagine we would publish Peanuts. That was simply not something that was ever on my radar. I got to know Charles Schultz. That was something else I never imagined would happen. I considered Charles Schultz a friend. I published Karl Barks. Artists that when I read Karl Barks as a teenager. I probably discovered him as a teenager. And then I realized how good he was and started collecting his work. And, we would talk about him all the time. Had no idea we would ever publish his entire
Incredible.
Talking Uncle Scrooge comics. All the original cartoonists that I didn't even know exist when I was reading comics, as a teenager, and in fact did not exist. Gilbert and Jaime and Jim Woodring and Joe Sacco and Carol Tyler and Robert Crumb. Publishing the Crumb comics. I read Robert when I was in my late teens. I didn't discover Underground comics until I was in my late teens. I was kind of a late bloomer. And of course, little did I know that I would eventually get to know Robert and publish his work. So, it's been...
No, it's incredible, man. Yeah.
Great dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And long may it continue. And I think, obviously, this has been fantastic. I know our listeners will have loved this. And before we let you go, I think on behalf of a lot of people who don't want the mainstream, all the people that have discovered creators, and this is to you and all the team that work at Fantagraphics, by the way, over the years, a big thank you for creating books that people like us want to read.
Yeah. Which we've been talking about for the 10, 11 years we've been going on this, man. Almost weekly, something from Fantagraphics comes up. Yeah. Big congratulations on the 50 years.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Really appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you for joining us. It's been amazing.
More than you might.
What an interview that was.
Well, that's a box ticks, guys.
Yeah. We're on a high. Obviously,
we are a bit.
Yeah.
We're on a sugar high, aren't we? It's like we've had a load of now this
big shout out to all the guys from Fantagraphics for helping us to make that happen. But it's one of those
Tucker as well, who was connecting it. Yeah.
Because we're obviously we're the little engine that could, as it were. We're only a little show, but talking about independent and small press comics. But
try our best.
Getting the chance to talk to pretty much like a titan in the sort of indie comics realm with Fantagraphics and getting a chance to speak to Gary is just brilliant. So and it's so good to see what they're still doing year after year.
Man, he's so keen still.
Yeah.
If you're kind of a bit unaware of Gary's backstory, as it were, go and have a look into what he's done. And the man has lived a fucking life in comics. I tell you.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And he still loves comics and wants to discover new stuff. So, and I know we touched on it, but Fantagraphics Underground, a lot of our listeners will love the stuff that's on there. It was great finding out.
And aspired to be on it. Aspired to be a part of it.
Yeah. So so that was awesome. And I mean, this show is awesome. It's literally in the name of the show. It's in the name, and that's what we aim to do every week. And I think
no one else is going to call us that. So
we have to do it ourselves. And what else we do is we sometimes shout out some things. Do we have any shout outs this week, Jim?
Yes.
Just a couple. So Chris Askham's new comic, Ace, Every Dog Has Its Day. It's currently on Kickstarter. Going back that. We're fans of Chris' work. Valued member of the community. He's also got a new issue of Switchblade Sisters coming out, which we've got a copy of.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Which is on my to read pile. Follow Chris on Substack as well, if you can, because he puts out pretty much a drawing every day. Really good stuff. Rudolph Fisher's the Conjuring Man Dies. It launches today on Kickstarter. This is from Alan Lisker. I didn't know Alan had this coming. Did you know about this, Dan?
No, me neither.
He sent me a message. I didn't. Yeah, really cool looking sort of PI kind of looking book, private investigator book. Which I'm definitely going to back. I've pinged it, so I'll get a notification. It's coming out on the day that this goes live, this podcast, so and the Monday. So look out for that as well. They're my two guys.
Dan, what have you got?
I've got a couple of Kickstarters as well. First off, we've got the Perfect Collection trade paperback, Perfect 10, issues 1 to 6. The Adventures of 10, the Artificial Assassin and Supervillains, is now collected in hardcover and trade paperback. That's got a couple of weeks to go. Do check that out. Smash this target. DMR, Before Oblivion, one last sci-fi action venture from our friend Kieran Squires at TBH Comics. That's on a notify me at launch button.
I'm going to do this for Kieran. What does DMR stand for, Dan?
Dirge Minotti Requiem.
You're welcome, Kieran.
Amazing.
And also, it's kind of to help promote, we got the Dry Cleaner, which is like that is on Global Comics.
Yeah.
I read that.
Very much like a Jason Statham action film.
Yeah.
So do go check that out.
Yeah, I've just started reading that on Global, actually. I'm really enjoying it. So.
I got collared in the week. Someone started talking about that bloody Spider-Man trailer. Have you seen that?
No, I've not seen it.
Do you see the one about the Odyssey, the one that came out?
No.
Dan, you know Tony.
You wanker. You got me. Is that in room 40?
Sorry, I just loaded that one up.
Jeez, look, he's taking a drink. So pleased with himself. A celebratory drink.
Anyway, enough tomfoolery.
Yeah, no. Brilliant stuff. So lots of stuff to check out there. And speaking of which, should we talk about some comics that people should be checking out? Tony.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Jigsaw Review issue 2 by Gwenny Press. It's just come out this month as we speak, put together by Mal Earl, who we're big fans of his work. It's divided up into cartoonists. Here are just a few of the names in it. Chris Webster, Mal's in it obviously, John Bagnall, Phil Elliott and Daryl Cunningham, Dave Metcalf-Carr and Paul Barlow, Denny Derbyshire, Jerzy Sosek, Ed Pinson and Denny Derbyshire, Bob Lynch and Michael J. Weller. It's the second volume of this. Old and new strips in there. I thought I'd just talk about a couple of my favourites in there. Wormwood by Chris Webster. A sordid tale of a student who forces us. This is so well done. I'm going to spoil this a little bit, by the way. Just prepare yourself. So it opens up as if a sort of students come to a teacher and sort of says, "Oh, how do I get my grades up?" Forces herself on it, and you got this sort of power dynamics thing, only to discover it's a porn film being filmed. I know we don't approve of pornography on this show, but
God, no.
And then it flies off into something I just did not expect. And it's a tale of, as I said, pornography, wanting to change your life, hallucinations, paintball, growing a hornet's nest on your head, and much, much more. And Where Have You Been All My Life? Wormwood by Chris Webster. I absolutely adored this. Absolutely. And it's this. I think there was 3 issues published of it originally, and this is the 3 issues he's reprinted in this. John Bagnall's got a load of stuff in here. He's got this sort of thick-lined faux nostalgia kind of style to it, very clean. A personal. There's a series of, some of them are one pages, some of them more than that. A little collection of his stories as part of this. It's a really thick volume, this, by the way. I've written in my notes, and it's something that Simon said. Simon was in volume 1, we were talking about it, and he said, "Looks good on your shelf." And I'd actually written that in my notes, exactly that phrase, and it looks excellent. It's a lovely thick volume. From a sort of design point of view, it reminds me a little bit of a mixture of Underground comics and, as it does, the Paris Review. There's a little bit of both in it somewhere there. In the John Bagnall one is one of my favourite bits, is how a comic is made, and this boy says to his mum, "Mum, where are my comics?" And mum says, "In the bloody bin. I've told you about tidying your room." And I thought, fuck me, we've all been there, haven't we, as kids? I remember all my comics being moved into the garage at one point. Dave Metcalf-Carr and Paul Barlow's Being a Girl immediately has it's got a sort of 90s Escape Deadline Revolver vibes about it, from 1996, dealing with gay rights. Really interesting. Jerzy Sosek, I don't know if I said that right. I'd put his lines somewhere between Stephen Appleby and the Haight-Ashbury Crowd, somewhere between Guardian and San Francisco Underground, somewhere like that. There's a line in it which made me laugh. "Mister, you walk like you shit your pants," which made me laugh. It's a series of 6 and 7 pages, and they go from all things, from throwing a stick from the dog and being in space with a load of aliens. Ed Pinson I've always liked Ed's work. Got to meet him when we did the Satanist flea market once, Windy is a trippy sort of tour de force about the weird world of a nuclear power station. And there's a story called Imps of the Perverse, which is looking into a microscope and seeing a mad and crazy universe. But absolutely perfection. Love this. Absolutely really good. Mao's Bedlam Black twisted a sort of noir with an 80s superhero feel to it in one of the stories. There's a few things by Mal in it, including the cover, which is that gorgeous. He's great at drawing birds, isn't he? I don't know. It's this great sort of bird figure on the character. I mean, feathered birds. And this Bedlam Black feels to me a bit like the Comico comic we missed as kids. It could almost sit on it's almost like there's a bit of Bill Willingham somewhere in there. There's a bit of like sits on the shelf next to Next Man or something like that. It's just a little bit of that. There's loads of stuff like this. I'm giving it short shrift because there's so many pages in it. And it's, as I say, it's sectioned out into just cartoonists with a little introduction, load of their strips, next cartoonists or team. Nursing. It's only $16.99 for 238 pages, which is really good value. Print on demand from Amazon. Volume 3 is on the way, I hear. Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff. Yeah, that's let me just tell you the title. The Jigsaw Review, Issue 2 by Gwenny Press. Look it up on Amazon. You can buy it there.
Nice. Good stuff. Nice. I'm going to jump in with my first one, which is a comic that's going gangbusters at the moment. Online. This is Dork from Image Comics, even though it's...
I bet you wish you had the physical copies of this now, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Dork, half dwarf, half orc, all dork, which is just absolutely brilliant. This is from Brett Bean, Jean-Francois Below, and Nate Picus, the letterer.
Penis.
Not penis, Dan. Grow up. That's Nate from. Trusting.
We're giddy. That's the problem with us.
Yeah. I think Nate is he's Blambot, isn't he? I believe.
Oh, yes. Of course. Yeah.
That dude fucking puts in the work. Massive respect for him.
Yeah. Now, armed with nothing but a magical yet ambitiously violent shield, a lonely orphan stumbles headfirst into Sunderland's never-ending war between the light and dark. Elves versus orcs, wizards versus common sense, dragons versus literally everyone. And caught dead centre, the orc. And this is a very... I love this book. I've got the first 2 issues, because I think that the first 2 issues came out... Did they come out quite quickly, one after the other?
I guess so, yeah.
It feels like it did. They have a cacophony of variant covers, the likes of Absolute Murder's Row of They always put the variant covers in the back.
I bet you I've got that beat on my one, but we'll wait for that.
Oh wow. But Brett Bean, his art and story is just I haven't heard of Brett's stuff before. If this is his first comic, then he is out of the oven, completely baked fresh.
And
do you know what I mean?
Artist,
yeah. It's just phenomenal. You can tell there's the influence. Well, influence might be too strong word, but the Scotty Young energy to it that he's bringing to, as you can tell from the synopsis, a fantasy story that is, for some people who may not know, there's part tabletop role playing, there's part video game, all of those sort of references that mush them together in a real sort of energetic. It's got some proper action in it, some great cartooning. It's like a proper cartoon, it's like an animated show on the page. That kind of level of, and he doesn't skimp on stuff either. There's backgrounds and there's action and there's violence. That sort of cartooning that is so effortless, it feels like a European bande dessinée. Do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff?
Yeah, I got that sense.
Yeah. Which is how, like, when Scotty Young is like at the height, it has that sort of energy to it. But what it never loses is sight of the storytelling. There's things going on, but it doesn't bog it down with a lot of stuff. There's a prophecy. There's people who are going to try and kill this guy. You have a motley crew of characters. This guy's got a talking shield. The shield is just a circular bit of wood with a giant eyeball on it. And like Blood and Thunder.
You love a fantasy book with a weapon that speaks. Fucking hell. Was it Barbaric? Was there one?
Barbaric's got one, and obviously sci-fi wise, Blood and Thunder.
Of course,
had a similar thing.
Are they always violent? The weapons.
They can be. I think in Blood and Thunder that it was a gun, but it was a pacifist, which made that interesting.
Subvert it a bit.
Yeah. But it was almost like this shield knows more than he does, and he's just trying to go through his life, and then he bumps into people, and there's some stuff going on. There's story yet to be divulged. He does. It's just him, a shield, and the ghost of a chicken. Here's a spoiler for anyone who checks it out. By the way,
are you really about to say the ghost of a chicken? Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah. It's the decapitated head of a chicken, which is really funny and makes it, because this is an animated kind of world. Do you know what I mean? You know, there are anthropomorphic characters as well as all these other fantastical ones, and the way that comes about, and there's the ghost of the chicken. And its headless body is still walking about. So that's almost like the Motley Crue. That's the three people that are like wandering this weird fantasy world. And it's just... I was saying to the guys before we started the show, it's just good comics. It's, you know, it knows exactly what it's doing. It's clearly made by someone who cares about these characters and just wants to make it fun. You hit the ground running. It doesn't fuck about to begin with. Yes, there is violence. There is sort of over the top... but blood and corpses and things like that, but not to the point where, you know, this is a crossover book. Kids are fucking love this book as well as and I think that's
as well as speculators.
Yeah, and that will die down in 12 months. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's the much like perhaps another book that Dan's going to talk about in a minute, which a lot of speculators are loving, but. I was caught by the covers. I'm a purist when I don't do variant covers. If the original artist has done the cover, that's the cover I like to.
If it's a normal price cover, I will occasionally do the cover, but I won't spend more money on a variant. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's a bit of a fucking idiot's game, honestly.
But it does, like for instance, in issue 2, there's a villain that they come across that has these daggers that when you're stabbed with them, it ages you. The daggers like take time away from you. So there's some interesting sort of like things like that going on. I was about to say fantasy, but it could work for any genre. You know, there's some great. I mean, issue 2, Brett's done a cover. Riley Rossmo's done a cover as well.
Oh, nice.
Do you know what I mean? So there's always, and I think Scotty Young did one for the first one. I can't remember.
Okay.
So yeah, Dork. I think it'll be fun, especially if you've got kids who love fantasy video games or role-playing games or anything like that. They will love this. It's fun. So that's my one. High recommendation for that one.
They're wisely cutting into that fad at the moment, aren't they? That's popular, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
But it doesn't...
it's not catching it.
Much like Hunger in the Dusk. It has... The influences are clearly there, but it's telling its own thing. It's you know, it's playing the same musical genre, but it's a great band.
Not just doing the cliche.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to fall into cliche with fantasy, I think.
Yeah. And even if you know the thing, just say like D&D, if you know all of that, if I'm reading a comic that's very heavily talking about that loses me, because I'm like, why are you only singing to a certain amount of people? The whole point of it is the story should be able to appeal to everyone.
Literally only picks up and reads it.
Yeah. It's like, only people who have played the video game will understand what I'm getting. Then your comic's failed then. Everyone's got to be able to fucking read this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I love books like this. So that's my one. Speaking of another book we love, Dan, try not to spoil this for us, my love.
No, I won't. I've kind of got my arm at the back on this one. It's Battle Beast issue 7, which kind of like...
I'm looking forward to reading
came out and I was like, wow, fucking issue 7's out.
That crept up on me though, because I remember when we were talking about it, we were like, oh, it's going to be back in the new year, and bam, it's here now.
I read this synopsis, which I've got to admit is quite spoiler heavy.
Yeah, spoilers for anyone who hasn't read the first.
The biggest series of 2024 returns. Battle Beast continues his quest to find the one being who can defeat him in battle and end his life. So,
well, thanks for that, Dan. You've ruined it for everyone.
So this pretty much carries on straight after the last arc.
Yeah.
With kind of like everyone kind of regathering themselves, and certain characters reframe them. A lot of the characters reframe themselves. It's not a straight continuation from the last story.
This is something like in order, because you got me and Tony are about to read this. This is why Dan is dancing on the ice at the moment. So I think a best way to do this is I'm always intrigued by the second arc of a book. The second trade from one. There is many times I've loved the first arc and I pick it up, and maybe it doesn't start well, or it doesn't. Is this just a continuation?
No, there's changes. There's changes. It's not just. I can't talk about it without spoiling it.
Yeah.
But I'd love to talk to you guys after you read it, because it looks like it reframes some stuff, and you think, oh, they were like that. Now they're like this.
But without changing the core of what the book is?
No, but there's character growth by most of the cast from...
Okay.
There's a little bit of time that's passed, and some of the characters have changed slightly. The way as characters, they've grown, and not just I'm a character going from A to B. In this, they've gone from A to B, now they're going from B to C. So there's change and growth, which is interesting, because you just don't want the same story told over and over again, do you? You want something different, and this sets up really well. And obviously Ryan Ottley's artwork is absolutely fucking fantastic, as is everyone else who started work on the books. Really great, really enjoyable. If you like the original,
just fun, man,
arc, you're gonna love this. That's all I can say. Recommend. This has got 6 covers.
Fucking hell.
That's fuck all for these firm. It's firm, isn't it?
Yeah. It's another one that's the hotness, though. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's nice. It's nice when something is that, and you read it and think, I understand. I understand.
I was saying it's frustrating. I got to a point and I carried on. It's like, that's the end of the book.
Yeah.
So
I'm always intrigued by the whether someone can keep up that tempo, though, or keep up that rhythm. What are we going to be talking about when we get to trade 3, trade 4? Are you winding it up, or are you still going at that pace? Yeah. It feels like something that they can make a lot of road ahead.
I kind of got a bit of faith in Kirkman for that. Do you know what I mean? Somehow, I just think. Yeah,
he does seem to have an eye on the long game.
Yeah. How long? I know you guys had a sort of mixed road with Firepower, but how long was Firepower? That was a few trades, wasn't it? That was a good.
Yeah, I think it was about 6 trades, wasn't it?
Yeah,
something like
that.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things I like.
It landed well. I will say, Firepower ended well. Yeah. It just there was that lag in the middle for me. That's all it was.
That kind of took me out of it. I've got to say. Maybe revisit it.
Yeah, because
it was such an explosive first volume, wasn't it? That's the problem with it.
And it ends with a hell of a bang. Firepower really does it. And
it does. It does.
That whole first volume with the whole kind of people going to a monastery and
not Kunlun. Let's not call it that.
And training up. I'm fucking all about that story.
Me too, man.
Story about that.
Me too.
It's fucking amazing.
It was weird because I remember when the Zero. Do you remember the Zero issue? We're talking about another comic here, but remember the Zero issue of Firepower came out. I couldn't get into that, and it was weird. It was only when I went back and I read. The whole thing in
read it in a chunk. You read it.
I read it in a chunk, and I was, and maybe because my brain was like, okay, let's see what we've got. That it flowed. Do you know what I mean? It was like, okay.
Mate, sometimes we benefit from not enjoying something to start with to rediscover, don't we? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's a weird thing to say, but we do.
Yeah.
I think it got to that bit when they're in suburbia, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Went on for ages seemingly, but that's because I was buying it every month and collecting it from the comic shop. And,
whereas I kind of got a kick out, because I was in it. It was flowing. Isn't it strange how book the
Oh man, I double dipped on it. I bought the issues and I bought the trades.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Kirkman's taking over Transformers, isn't he? So I'm interested to see what he does.
He's been doing that for a few issues now. We'll have to.
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm reading it. It's the first time I've ever read Transformers. I'm reading it.
Okay.
All right.
How you finding
it? Did you not read? Did you read the Daniel Warren Johnson stuff?
Yeah, sorry, that. So this.
Right, okay, yeah, because that arc was just amazing.
The Planet of the Transformers episode.
Yes,
because we've got a big event.
You got the omnibus, didn't you, Dan?
Yeah, that's a fucking tome.
Yeah.
Volume 1 of the UK.
So by August, maybe we're doing something in August. Listeners, you'll be able to figure out why. Maybe by then you might have finished it. Because it's a beast of a book.
Buy this and wet my whistle
with it. There's 2 volumes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's two omnibuses.
There is two in there. That's right.
Christ. Nice.
There was a point in the UK run where they started introducing like headmasters and pretenders, and I was like, it's not really liking this.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's when the toy line was started like losing its feet.
Yeah. I remember the headmasters. Bloody hell. Not teachers, by the way. They're Transformers. Yeah, I'm just going to do a brief little mention to a lot of the comics I enjoy on social media are usually on Instagram. Great Instagram cartoonists. So I'll probably pick a few just to highlight, just an honourable mention, as it were. I love the work of Stephen Collins. This is Stephen Collins Comics on Instagram. He's a Guardian illustrator. Normally, I don't read the Guardian. I don't do any of that. But I do love his stuff. It regularly brings me a chuckle because his pacing of Instagram comics is great, and they all like he's got let's not play frisbee with that poet anymore, and they're usually sort of a history of Pancake Day, happy exercise completion day, which is what happens when the world actually finishes all of the exercise it's been meaning to do. The grand finale of that TV show you've never watched, Kurt Cobain's youth culture scream time. Is your 17th century astronomer spending too much time on his telescope? So there's loads of quirky little tales, but the one recently that made me laugh was great moments in lorry racing. This one I sent to you guys, the link, and it's just 14th of July 2006, the greatest overtaking maneuver in lorry racing history. It's done panel by panel. Bill Simmons versus Bob's Haulage on the A21 southbound, and then it talks to the driver that won. It goes, it's all just a matter of belief, you know. I mean, they can put a speed limiter on Bill Simmons' lorry, but they'll never put a dreams limiter on Bill Simmons. I remember coming up behind Bob's Haulage and thinking, I believe I can overtake Bob's Haulage. He was going at 56 miles per hour, the max. I roared past him at 56.01 in less than 4 hours. I could just feel the love of the crowd behind me, all the way back to the M25. And anyone who's driven on a motorway or dual carriageway will know the pain of being stuck behind a lorry trying to overtake another lorry. Because the last panel is just these two lorries at night trying to overtake each other, and there is miles of traffic behind them just honking. And it's just that kind of wit is like, I just love stuff like that. So Stephen Collins comics on Instagram, if you just want a daily laugh, he does them pretty frequently actually, and I think they're extra.
They're all popping up in my Instagram.
Yeah. It's always like, sometimes social media is just an absolute fire, isn't it? To see something like that is always just, he's a good British wit, I think, which is really nice. So check him out. So that's my honourable mention. Tony, what else have you got?
So the last one I've got is Chatterbox by Liam McKenna, black and white, $7 for Canadian from his site. He sent it through to us, very kind of him, on the emails. It can be read as a standalone, but he makes the point it fits into a larger conversation about the role of the reader in comics. Interesting. And note that perhaps some writers could think more about Dan Slott. So Liam is himself a high school teacher, English teacher, who makes comics in his spare time, as we all do. Well done, mate. Released his first long-form comic in 2019 called Release Barabbas, which sounds interesting, that. This is just a fun little short comic, really, just a black and white. I think he mentions I can't remember where I read this, but I think he mentions it feels a bit like a stage play, and it does. It feels like something you could just play on one sort of set. I'll be honest with you, the cover I found a little bit underwhelming. Doesn't really give any direction or indication of what you're going to find inside, but the story is fairly straightforward, in all honesty. It's set within the world of it doesn't give a specific day, but it's a sort of old US Tommy gun wielding gangsters. They're driving a car out into the desert. It feels like probably somewhere near it, into the desert to and there's something in the boot, and one of them, who is the aforementioned Chatterbox, one of the gangsters, is a sort of old hand, and he's talking about, they always seem to start talking when we get near get out in the desert when nobody can hear them. I don't know why they do this. And he sort of talks all the way through it. They're saying that, with me saying it's dialogue heavy. It is quite dialogue heavy, but only by one character, so it's not too much words on a panel, if that makes sense. The other dude is a younger dude. He's a bit more quiet and he's a bit more sort of pragmatic. So they get out to this hole that's already dug, as we know from Casino. Always dig the hole first, and they're about to get him out of the car, and a couple of things happen. You think, oh, that's a bit weird, but it's such a nice character piece. It's really well written. It's really well paced, in fact, as well, and it just comes out as not well. Desperate things do happen because you've got a body in the boot of your car, but there's no aliens. There's nothing. Nobody's taking mushrooms and flying to Mars or anything in it. But it's just a nice little thing. I'm not going to spoil it because I think it's worth getting a copy. If you go to liammckennacomic.com, you can find all of his stuff on there. Instagram Liam_J_McKenna. You can find him on Instagram as well. Just look for Chatterbox. Really cool little comic. Yeah,
nice.
My second one, guys.
Awesome. Cool comics is what we want. That's what we want to read. That's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about all things comics, and we have enjoyed doing it this week. We're on a high. Tony's on it very much on a high, not just because the Eiffel Tower.
It's only half two here.
Wow.
Yeah, Eiffel Tower.
But if you enjoyed this week, then stay tuned because there's even more greatness to come in the weeks and months. As always, and years on the ACP. If you've only just joined us, perhaps this is your first episode. You were drawn in by Fantagraphics, and you listen to this thinking, who are these losers? Well, there's even more episodes that these losers have done over the years. So go back to the back catalogue, and there's several different ways that you can do that, and there's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. If you want us to, perhaps you want us to check out your book, or perhaps you've got an event or a comic book store that you want to shout out. The shout out section is there for a reason, people. So if you've got any sort of events, especially charity things as well, we love shouting out charity stuff. So please let us know if there's any charity.
Don't like talking about that, though, do we?
Our charity work. We don't like talking about charity work, but we'll talk about your charity work and therefore look good ourselves.
I'll smash you nicely,
yeah. And you can follow us on social media at Awesome Comics Pod, at the Awesome Pod on X, and where did you listen to us? Perhaps it was on Podbean or on awesomecomics.podbean.com. Perhaps you listened to us on Apple. If you did, then subscribe, leave a review. Just 5 stars. 5 stars. We're desperate. No, but it does help the algorithms and stuff like.
Yeah, just please repost it if you're enjoying it. Give it a little repost.
Yeah, totally. Let people know about it. Repost our Instagram post. We just want this show to get out to as many people as possible, and then they'll discover some stuff, some comics that they'll really love. Much like you did if you're listening to this show. We're also on Spotify, do the same there. We're on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. I always do a shit at work.
I'll tell you what, that is another example of always dig the hole first.
Yeah.
So just remember that, people.
Wise words, Smashy.
Boss earns $1, I earn a dime. That's why I shit on the company time.
Where do you get this shit from? Honestly,
that's from when he was a teenager and he tried to used to be a hip hop DJ, didn't you, Dan? Yeah.
And also shit with the door open at work, like dominance.
Yeah, intimidates people. That's what I do.
This is no way to live your life, listeners. Please.
Monstrous. Diabolical way.
Don't do as they say, nor should you do what they do. That's all I've got to say. But what you should do is find us online, etc. Tony, where can people find you?
Neveronanything.com or on Substack, as you can find the podcast. Look for us on Substack. I'm under Tony Ez, and you can find the Awesome Comics Pod on Substack as well.
Nice. Yeah, which you should, because the episodes are here. And thank you if anyone's just discovered us on Substack, by the way, thank you very much.
Quite a lot of people have. It's quite impressive. We never know until we check and we go, oh, fucking hell, look at that.
Quite a lot of people
Yeah, we're like, wow. So no matter where you found us, please do get in touch and say what you want us to talk about, because we always want to talk about comics. Dan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, or aka X, at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
Nice.
I'm still working away like crazy on Viper. I think I put it's about 30 or 40 pages long. It's going to be about 50 plus pages.
Wow.
I'd say added a lot more comics.
It's going to be a killer. It's going to be a killer, of which you can see a lot of Dan's sketches and stuff like that if you join his Patreon, by the way.
I need to do a bit more. This is so
you're always fucking posting stuff on Patreon.
Busy as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Busy.
You can find me on social media at Jester Diablo. Even if you just want to see that I bought a nice pot from a garden centre today and I'm well chuffed about it.
Is that what you posted? I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it looks like it's got hedgehogs on it. Anyway, that's the sort of legitimate gangster content you're going to get from me on a daily basis.
I'll ask the question, did you muck around with the chainsaws? That's what you always
No, it wasn't that sort of guy.
Pick an axe up, haven't you, whenever you're in the garden.
I like to pick an axe up. They didn't have any chainsaws. But
shame.
That's it. I could go off on a tangent. But let's just say,
whenever I used to take my son to a garden centre, I'd make us both hold axes. And take
pictures yeah. Or anything that like a leaf blower that you could hold like a gun. Yeah. No. Mind you, if I go to the shops and buy like a 4-pinter of milk, I'm walking around as if that's a gun. Do you know what I mean? Because you can hold the handle like like Dred's gun. Like you just go.
You ever put the fucking.
This is still recording. I can't believe I'm saying. The green light. What do you mean the recording light's still on? Anyway, join us back next week, folks. We really appreciate you listening to this. And wherever you are in the world, we hope you are happy, healthy, doing okay, reading lots of comics, making lots of comics, and enjoying comics, because that's what it's all about. So from all of us here in ACP Towers, both in the UK and around the world, isn't that right, Tony?
Yeah.
That sort of energy you can expect next week. So from all of us here, have a brilliant week. And what else should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.